Joining us now to review some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is Arise News analyst Emmanuel Efeni. Good morning, Emmanuel.
Good morning, Ruben. Good morning, Rufai. Good morning, Ayo.
Good morning.
Yes, let's start the review with this day, Nigeria's newspaper of record. I start with the window story above the masthead. Federal government, Port Harcourt refinery to commence partial operation before end of first quarter. Silver, why I will happily buy fuel for 300 naira. Says kerosene price deregulated beyond government purview. Well, talk is easy. I don't want to say it's cheap. This government has refused to remove fuel subsidy so that we can have that fund to do more meaningful things that will touch the lives of Nigerians, education, health. But the Minister of State for Petroleum is saying, well, he will be ready to buy petrol for 300 naira. Many Nigerians will be ready to do so, but the government has not been able to summon the political will to do what is correct. Yes, refinery, after spending billions of naira, doing nothing, of course, the last injection of funds to turn the place around and make sure the Port Harcourt refinery, one of the Port Harcourt refineries, come on stream. Well, the date is now before the end of the first quarter. What difference will that make? Left to be seen. Now, other stories. The lead story, Buhari in Yola canvasses support for Tinubu, Binani. Other APC candidates tell Adamawa people Tinubu Shetima can be trusted to deliver. Urges them to make history by electing first female governor. PDP mocks Lagos governor. Well, the president, as promised, has joined the campaign trail of the candidate of the APC, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Yes, he is the chairman of the campaign council, but he's been absent on duty after the launch of the campaign. But now the president is back on the campaign trail, and he has chosen certain areas, starting from Adamawa, to kick off the campaign. Yesterday he was in Adamawa, and of course the crowd, impressive. The message, whether it's getting to the people, there is another matter altogether, because that is the stronghold of the PDP candidate Atiku Abubakar, and of course one of those opposed to the Muslim ticket within the APC ranks, Babacha Lawal, is also from that state. Well, it's good the president has kicked off the campaign, and of course we know that the president had huge following in the north of the country, which of course he demonstrated during his several attempts to become president. But will he be able to transfer these fanaticals, followers, as some people call them, to the candidate of the APC? The fact that many in the north have not felt positively the impact of 8 years of President Muhammadu Buhari, will that be taken into consideration? But the campaign is on. Now, the Nation newspaper also reporting that story. Why Nigerians should vote Tinubu Shetima by Buhari. Yes, ex-Lagos governors trustworthy. Now, the Vanguard newspaper, the lead story, insecurity. Polls may be postponed. Council, INEC insists no going back on Beavers. IREV, real-time polling unit results will be uploaded on IREV. INEC must manage security threats. IFES. Security issues not within the purview of INEC to decide. The government of the day, the security agencies must provide the environment. But INEC is sounding the alarm. Yes, postponing election has become a familiar routine in the past. But this time around, we have enough time. With the government insisting that the nation has been secured, although the evidence on ground, the happenings every day prove otherwise. So this is a timely call from INEC, because if there is insecurity in many parts of the country, sending youth corps into those areas to conduct polls, of course, will be clearly lack of discretion. Hence, INEC is sounding this alarm. Nigerian Tribune newspaper also has that story, security threat to next election real. INEC says commission leaving nothing to chance. Now, the Daily Trust newspaper, different story altogether. Education Ministry, Supreme Court, 50 others, high corruption risk, according to the ICPC, the Independent Corruption ICPC. Now, 131 MDAs fail ethics, integrity, compliance, lottery fund, environment, state house among top 5 of agencies that are high in corruption risk. Assessment targeted at boosting transparency in government. Commission report shows failure of criminal justice system. Experts, with the fight against corruption, with the setting up of corruption anti-corruption agencies since the days of Obasanjo, the verdict from this report is that many government agencies remain cesspool of corruption, and it's something that is still unfortunate. So the agencies, they have a lot of job to do, bringing those who are found to have dipped their hands into our common till, bringing them to book before the law, well, should serve as a deterrent. But so far, the result is not showing that, because we still have a case of Accountant General of the Federation who took billions of naira from our commonwealth for personal use. Now, if we look at the foreign newspapers quickly, the Times of London, overloaded NHS turns to cabins in car parks. Yes, fresh round of strikes planned as talks falters. NHS patients face being treated in temporary cabins set up in hospital motor parks under the plans by the Health Secretary to tackle crisis in the health service delivery. Steve Barclay, yes, has outlined his proposal. £50 million being set aside to to pay for temporary accommodation, to set up, of course, temporary hospitals, to create extra space for the overcrowding and enable people get treatment. Of course, this is as a result of shortage of staff, and of course the flu this year, which has been unusually high in the UK. But the striking workers are not also making things easy. The Guardian newspaper is reporting NHS strikes to go on ahead as the unions blame minister for failure of talks. Yes, some progress seems to be made, but the striking workers are saying, the unions are saying they will proceed with their strike because the government is yet to meet what they are asking for. Government is saying we don't have so much fund to be elaborate about any increase. Ruben, Rufai, and Ayo.
Yeah, they don't have so much funds to be elaborate about any increase, but the system is dying. And it's affecting the UK economy. You can see the much toll it's taking on the UK economy. 0.25% of GDP lost in all of this going on. And this is the same government that says it will cater to its people after a pandemic. And the NHS even gets it wrong. I mean, the government even gets it wrong in the first place about the NHS. they've constantly made a mistake of throwing money at the problem all this while, rather than having steep reforms. And there are reforms that had to be made. And these are what the people in the NHS are crying for. Yes, there's the monetary part, which has to increase, because when you look at it, if those reforms were made hitherto, and the increase should have been commensurate with inflation levels. And that's what these members of staff in the NHS are crying for. But the government should be able to unravel it and make a great decision for itself. You know, as regards also what is making the rounds as regards INEC and elections and all of that.
And security issues.
Security, like I said before, we have given our sovereignty to the state to be able to make things happen as regards the democratic process, electionary process, and overseeing the states. After giving them that sovereignty, they shouldn't bother us with matters of security. Because we have given them the sovereignty, budgets are approved every year, so they should do the needful. We can't constantly have things like that after giving your sovereignty to the state, then the state is found wanting and people have to pay 20 million naira in bandits. Because the bandits from, from Edo State now, have communicated with families and they say they want 20 million naira per person for 32 people. And the state has done nothing about it. So that's also the way with election. They should do the needful and ensure elections hold. I remember leading up to 2015, President Goodluck Jonathan asked for 2 weeks. And elections did hold in Borno. I'm not saying anybody should extend anything, please don't get me wrong. Whatever must be done now to ensure elections must hold, elections must hold. And people that are burning INEC property, they must be brought to book. We can't just say aliens are burning property and things like that. Why do we have this code of unknown men in this country? In the days of Fela, we had unknown soldier. We had unknown police. Now we have unknown gunmen. I'm sure very soon we have unknown civilian. Do we even know how many are we in this country?
Yeah. Well, I talk about violence. I just want to speak very quickly on the Ojota fracas.
Yeah.
Very rally turns bloody as Yoruba Nation agitators.
Yes, right at the front page of the Punch newspaper. The Punch newspaper.
Yes.
How Yoruba Nation protesters converge, 3 a.m. members killed.
Yes. I mean, what's according to the reports, we saw reports yesterday, but according to eyewitnesses, this happened because Yoruba Nation agitators had gone to the Freedom Park there for a protest. And then they said it turned violent when policemen came, open tear gas, and then some reported that they shot at some people and people were injured. One killed, 2 policemen injured. And I must, first of all, in terms of the right of Nigerians to peaceful protest and also the response of police in situations like that. So Ojota is already a hotspot. And when we look at places like this, when the police come, it then begs a question as to how policemen and security forces respond to citizens' right to protest. Why must it always turn bloody? Why must it turn violent? And why must there be a loss of life when people protest? There obviously investigations are being carried out at the moment. It happened yesterday, and hopefully we'll get a fuller report from the police. But we must speak and tackle this force by the policemen when it comes to protests.
Now, with the story about the NHS, it's very unfortunate that anytime you have strikes, you have disruption. And as they face this winter of discontent in the UK, you can only measure the impact in terms of the hardship for the people. Only God knows how many persons have died as a result of the fact that, people in the paramedics and the medical sector and members of the Royal Nursing Society have been on strike. But I think that one silver lining here is a report also this morning that the Health Secretary, Steve Barclay, is beginning to talk to the unions. And there is the prospect, we're told, of even the salaries, the new wages that will be negotiated, to be backdated. But that will still have to be approved by Rishi Sunak. It will still have to be approved by Jeremy Hunt. It will still have to be approved by the union members. But it is very obvious that that failure, the collapse, if we can use that strong word, of the NHS is not something that could continue. And it could cause the tourists eventually in future elections because the people will not forget. The other big story there is that of Harry, Prince Harry, who we're told now calls his stepmom a villain. And, the papers report that amounts to crossing the red line. So would there be a way for him to reconcile with the family, or would there not be a way to go back?
You seem to be burning all the bridges.
Yes, and finally, the UK is giving to Ukraine Challenger II, their biggest war vessel. I hope this will not result in a further escalation of the Russo-Ukrainian war that has wrong-ended the rest of the world. And people have been saying, well, when will this war end? Because with the UK now sending a vessel to support President Zelensky, you could have a situation where other countries in the West will follow suit. And that clearly, can only result in further escalation. As Putin says, he's not going to back down. But in any case, thank you very much, Emmanuel Ofene.